Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to our July council meeting. Let's see, there's some interested people in the audience today. It's great to see. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. I'm going to ask if there's any disclosure of in your interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. If so, please declare now. Seeing none, I'd like to just take a moment. When you're approaching the mic, I'd appreciate the podium stating your name and speak up, because our council meetings are all taped, and believe it or not, we do have some interested people out there that watch them. It's the biggest complaint that we have is they can't hear. So better you can speak into the mic, the happier our folks will be in our town. So got a resolution moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Potnovitz, that the minutes of the town of Minto, July 17th, 2025 regular council meeting be approved. All in favor of that motion? It's carried. Thank you. Resolution moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the council of the town of Minto convenes into the Court of Revision. All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you.
I would ask the council members that are not a part of that, please step down.
So we'll just take a moment, and anybody that's here for the drain or other items on the agenda today, just take a moment and sign in. Okay.
At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And I would ask for an appointment of chair.
I move that Dave Turton be chair.
And a seconder.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. The motion is that Dave Turton is hereby appointed as the chair of the Court of Revision for Municipal Drain 119-2025. All in favor? That's passed. I'll pass it over to the chair.
Okay, thank you. So I must ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. If so, declare it now. Seeing none. The purpose and the background information. The purpose of the Court of Revision meeting is to hear appeals. The schedule of assessment for Minto drain number 119. Construction of a new drain beginning in lot 41, concession 8, proceeding into lot 41, concession 7, in the town of Minto. The following are attached to the agendas. So we have Court of Revision jurisdiction attached. We have the notice of Court of Revision for drain 119-2025 attached. And all appeals are required to be received in writing 10 days, June 8th, 25, prior to the date of the Court of Revision as per the June 18th, 2025 notice. And so appeals from landowners at the discretion of the court for persons who have not submitted an appeal in writing 10 days prior to the date of the Court of Revision may be a resolution allow an appeal to hear on such conditions as to giving notice to all persons interested or as the court considers just. So I should have said we do not have any appeals.
We do not have any written appeals. That's correct.
So is there anyone in the audience today that wants to submit an appeal? Sir, do you want to step to the mic and tell us the reason for your appeal? Sorry.
For you, Chair Turton, if they wish to hear the appeal,
Okay.
the Court of Revision would actually have to make a resolution that will allow them to do a late appeal.
Pardon me. Thank you. So do I hear, thank you, Councillor Dirksen. Seconder, Deputy Mayor Anderson, to accept unwritten appeals, verbal appeals today. All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself there.
Thank you.
So, Jim, you have a few minutes to state your appeal.
Try to make it a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Jim Gibson, and I feel I have been unfairly assessed $5,510 for drain 119. This entire painful project is and has been full of inconsistencies. I'm the only person to have attended all of the meetings. It turns out they were entirely pointless. The original front man for the drain 102 and now 119 was an inexperienced Trevor Kipfer. Trevor has left Burnside's employ. Early on, we were told you can't take water from one watershed to another. They have done it. You cannot send water to a drain you are not assessed and paid into. They have done it. You can't do anything to the wetland that would change the water level in that wetland. They have done it. Adam, the county forester, issued a clear-cut permit to John Martin, being assured that everything was in order to proceed. The bush was leveled long before the first meeting to consider the report. This swamp is also part of the Howick-Minto wetland complex. There is a ministry bulletin online highlighting the 10 most common law drainage problems between neighbors, listing the do's and don'ts. This drain design ignores the main points of this written document, well-written document. It was authored by a Sid Vanderveen. At the last two meetings, it has been said that I had been offered a drain across my place. On the contrary, once they had abandoned the estimated $1 million dream drain to 102 and targeted me, I have repeatedly asked for a swale across my place. Get me a permit and I would pay for the digging. It was also been suggested that somehow I could have made a private deal with Mr. Martin. At the January 24 meeting, Greg said that if I could get along with my neighbors, I would not have to accept the paltry allowance. Mr. Vanderveen at the last meeting, his first appearance at any meeting, suggesting going municipal should possibly be a last resort. I should remind the experts that for the first number of meetings, their design had all this water going to 102 to the south, including mine. Why would I need a drain? At what point of this process, which was well underway before I knew anything about it, was I to make a deal with Mr. Martin? I had never met John before this began. I have been stonewalled and lowballed through this whole ordeal. They say I'm to be paid for a 1/3 of a right-of-way, being 5 meters wide, should the drain go through. The drain does not go through, but the water from hundreds of acres does. The municipal protections and conditions for damages, loss of access, future maintenance are being denied me. My concern from the start has been for my trees. I have experience with this very problem 1 block to the south. These reports say that a property owner should expect to lose 1 crop along the drain corridor. I stand to lose the crop I've been growing for most of my life on 25 acres. What will grow in its place? No one from Burnside has ever argued the point of my trees being drowned. The $5,510 and the work they claim to have done. Investigation into my place showing elevations, water movement, acres to be flooded should have already been done in this drain's preliminary stages. They have written to Maitland Valley Conservation a purposely exaggerated version of what council's direction had been. There were no charges from Maitland Valley for the response. I checked. I was told on the phone by Greg that they had used LiDAR to confirm what they already knew. No one asked for that. LiDAR is now a common tool used for basically no cost. Its accuracy through foliage is still doubtful. They claim to have priced a full-fledged drain all the way to the Leonard drain, 1,200 meters, when they were asked for a mere shallow ditch for 700. The right-of-way for this entire drain being 20 meters. Remember, my allowance for the pretend drain has a 5-meter right-of-way. The request of council to look at 2 crossings for myself turned into multiple crossings, intruding into the wetland. If in fact anyone investigated these crossings, they would have found them to be already in channeled conditions near the east and west property lines bordering my high ground hardwoods and their existing trails, materials and equipment not having to penetrate or disturb the wetland. Burnside described this 5510 as being a special benefit charged against me. Here I am being excluded from all municipal conditions and protections from damages now and forever. Yet now they choose to include me municipally by charging this bogus 5510 for something I didn't get. The review was asked for by this council, not me. This special benefit, so is said by Mr. Van der Veen, is for a ditch that would only have been a benefit for myself. How ridiculous is that when it is everyone else's water running through it? Every drain in the country would have to be special benefited along the majority of its length. How can Burnside dare to claim the two crossings to the back half of my property that is going to be cut off from access be a special benefit to me, but deny me compensation for damages to my existing crossings when they wash out the first year? By using section 32 for insufficient outlet, they keep jumping in and out of regulations in the Drainage Act. I do not qualify for this, but I must pay for that. $5,510. How much does a guy sitting at Burnside make? At $100 an hour, that is almost a week and a half of work. This revised report has one email from Maitland Valley, one half a page of ballpark estimates for a complete drain that council did not ask for, and an updated summary of assessments. No design plans, elevations, routes, just their say so. The saying goes, you get what you pay for, not if you're paying part of drain 119 fiasco. A $20,000 ditch deepening, now up to $166,000 and climbing. This $5,510 has little to do with the supposed work done. It is just an extension to the series of reductions to my allowance for me not knuckling under to this nonsense. While the acknowledged acres with access to this drain has gone up almost 4 times, my allowance has gone down from 18,000 plus to 6,220 to 5,690. Let's talk about these dollars. Burnside claims to be using the same numbers to calculate this allowance. Length, 700 meters, times the width, 5 meters, times land value. Yet somehow have been coming up with a drastically different total, always somehow lower. The high-priced experts need help with their math. These tactics could be called many things. You decide. I do not believe their actions meet the ethics and high standards expected of a professional that were spoken of at the start of the last meeting. I have been driven unwillingly to this appeal process and have found a new appreciation for the First Nations people and what they have been up against. Thank you.
Hey, Jim, I have a couple questions,
Yep.
if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm just
Fire.
wondering, why is the appeal late and why is it not in writing?
Yeah. Well, the long and the short of it is I have a lot going on, and I was gonna mail it, and it was Monday of the next week. And again, I could blame it on the long weekend and that, but that's the long and the short of it is I had it all printed off and it was on the counter, and I just plain didn't get it. And then when
Thank you, that's appropriate.
Yeah.
There's 3 reasons. The role of the members of the court of the revision. Members of the court may hear appeals on 3 grounds. Number 1, land or road that has been assessed too high or too low. Land or road should have been assessed but has not. And actually, number 3 is due consideration has not been given to the land's use. So, what is your complaint? Are you seeking a reduction?
That's what it is.
Okay,
I don't believe I should,
okay.
this is an
So-
entire drain problem. It's not mine.
So the other part is, should someone else's be increased?
Uh, I believe, yes, I believe so, because I'm on the receiving end of it. And sorry to say it, because I know
Okay.
they're already overpaying, but I'm on the receiving end of this. And up until now, like I said, because I'm beyond the end of the municipal part of it, I do not get any of the benefits, protections. There's a money saving by, there's no future maintenance required.
Okay,
They can duck out on that. They're ducking out on the damages that are for sure going to happen. And,
okay. so
and,
the
and
last
because
question-
that question was asked at council, I think council, when they sent them back for or a revision or have another look at it, they had no idea that this was going to come back. Or I'm assuming, I'm speaking, yeah, that's just my
Understood.
assumption. I don't know that. But, I doubt very much they had anticipated that I was going to be hit with a $5,510 bill. $5,510 would have put one of my crossings in.
So the last question then is, who, who should be increased?
I would say the entire drain.
Okay,
It should go against it should be added on to the total assessment.
and you've given your reasons why, so,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I have.
okay, thank
Yeah.
you for your comments. I'm
Yep.
going to ask our engineer for his response.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to ask, normally I would give kind of an overview of how we did the assessments for the project. Would you still like that, or would you just like me to address Mr. Gibson's appeal?
So this is relatively new to us. And I'm going to ask you for your experience here. What do you suggest? Should we go over it or should we get to the point?
I suggest going over it,
Okay,
and
and I'll
I'll try,
accept that.
I'll be brief.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The total estimated cost for this project is $166,000, as was mentioned earlier. We used 3 sections of the Drainage Act for assessing out these costs. Section 22, benefit assessment, and that amount was $54,530, or 33% of the overall cost of the project. Section 23, outlet liability assessment, that figure was $105,460, and that represents 63% of the overall total cost of the project. Section 24, special benefit, that was, as mentioned earlier, $6,000, or 4% of the overall cost of the project. Benefit assessment, in a nutshell, is applied to a property that is somehow improved by the construction, maintenance, or repair of a drainage system. There can be any other advantages relating to the better property. It can be aesthetics, it can be better conveyance of water across your property, a number of different things. That's benefit assessment. Outlet liability is basically the portion of the assessment that's based on the area within the watershed boundaries and the areas and land use that contribute water either directly or indirectly to the drainage system. We take a look at these land use factors for outlet liability, and in this particular case with Drain 119, we've used 3 different factors. We've used a factor of 1 for agricultural land. We've used a factor of 0.5 or 1/2 for woodlots. And we've used, for the Howick wetland, for the Howick Minto wetland complex, we used a factor of 1/4, 0.25. When we get to special benefit, okay, special benefit means that any works or features included in the construction, repair, or improvement of a drainage works that has no effect on the functionality of the drainage works. since the request for further investigation by two landowners resulted in additional costs to the project of $6,000, which includes reproducing and production of the paper reports, that type of thing. It did not improve the functionality of the proposed drainage works. And so we didn't feel it was reasonable to assess those increased costs to upstream landowners. The proposed extension of the works on the two properties, approximately 762 meters of open ditch or swale. We assessed the $6,000 proportionately, which means William and Catherine Wilkin, they had 62 meters that was not included in our original report. So we assessed them 8%, $490. And the Jim and Colleen Gibson properties, approximately 700 meters. That's 92%. So we assessed them with $510. That's how we come up with it. And Jim mentioned a few other things here that are actually considered allowances, not assessment. So I think I've answered or responded to Jim.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there other appeals? Sorry, Jim, I'm not gonna let you speak again, okay? Is there other appeals? So I'm going to ask, is there any questions? Mayor Anderson, go ahead. Who you're directing it to?
To Jim.
Okay. Jim, would you come up to the mic, please?
You sent us some pictures.
Yeah.
There were no comments, at least I didn't get any on my email, there were just pictures.
Yes,
They didn't mean a great deal to me without any comments on the impact of the
yeah,
relevancy of them.
yeah, I'm not very good at that type of thing.
Okay,
So anyway, the pictures were basically to show the size of the trees in my wetland. That they call it a wetland, I call it a soft maple swamp. So a few of the trees I've taken pictures of are good sized trees. I estimate their value at about $300 a piece. And so in an acre of wetland, how many dollars is that? And like I said, it's most everyone's opinion that this added water is for sure not going to help my trees. And again, it's an estimate. I would say there's going to be 25 acres of my swamp that currently is already wet, but doing well as far as the trees are growing. And in the future, because of the municipal drain stopping where it's stopping, I get no benefit. There's no avenue for me to talk about damages or repairs or future maintenance. And this is forever. This is not a municipal drain that washes in and the municipality comes in and fixes it. What happens because of this drain, this property, we're stuck with forever. This is my last kick at it. So it's not like a municipal drain where if it floods and it goes over the banks, well, we can do something about it. This, once it goes in there, once they let loose of it, and I'm done with my appeal process, I'm stuck with whatever is put upon me.
so do you harvest the trees from this swamp, or do you just grow?
I've taken the ash trees out of it because they're all, some were good trees, others are all dead and dying. And so these are the soft maples, and I have yet, and I doubt I ever am gonna harvest any of them because I appreciate a good big tree. And
The maple bush.
what's gonna happen is it's gonna get wet and then they're gonna die. And the ones that aren't dying right now are gonna go topple over on the ones that it's just gonna be a mishmash of crisscrossed monsters that are beyond me.
Is it not all already swamp? You describe it as a swamp frequently.
It's soft
already
maple,
wet?
well, that's what we've already called it, soft maple swamp. But this is, and they're gonna tell you, this is new water. It's coming in there, new water. They've dug a ditch to bring this new water in, and it's gonna come in. And there's no way for it to get out other than for it to soak its way out. That's why I wanted a shallow swale to centralize it. So if there is any, it would centralize the damages, I would hope, and give it because right now it just spills in, from Bill Wilkins, it spills in where they let it loose. And then it just flattens out, and it flattens out into about 25 acres but again, those trees have done well, and they have all come back. They're a new generation of trees because when the Leonard drain was dug in the 80s, everything died because the water level went down. So all the cedars that have been in there all died, blew out, blew over. And so these soft maples are a new generation of trees, a new species of trees. And when these go, there's no new species of trees to take their place.
Thank you for your explanation.
Thank you.
Counselor Dirksen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This question for Mr. Natskville. I was trying to jot things down when Mr. Gibson was speaking. So he talked about the legality, I don't know, allowance of water from one watershed to another. I wondered if you could comment on that.
Yes, I could. Under this proposed drainage system, we are not bringing any water from a different watershed.
Yeah, ask another question.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, and then also he had talked about a drain to another drain. Could you comment on that?
I think I know what he's talking about through you, Mr. Mayor. Currently, there's a little bit of a ditch, actually two parts of a ditch that kind of come to a confluence. And then what we're doing is just deepening both of them and extending it to into the swamp, or to the edge of the swamp rather, and adding one branch. So I think that's what he means by a drain into another drain into another drain. I think.
Okay, and that's legal to do? That's okay to do?
Oh yeah, yeah. Under the
Okay.
Drainage Act. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And then he also spoke about drain 102 that at some point through this process, earlier in the process, it was going to take the water, but then it was changed to send the water all to his bush, his swamp.
That is correct.
And so then he was going to end up taking it. So he was talking about taking all the water, but not having any drain. So he's taking the water, but it's literally going to sit in his swamp and sink and like be absorbed.
Sure. Correct.
Oh, and I was wondering, this was before we were part of the process as well. Mr. Gibson was talking about his, let me get the right word, his allowance. That's on the plus side, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. His allowance was 18,000,
Hmm.
but now it has dwindled to around 2,000. So I'm just wondering how the change, I mean, I understand the last $510. I understand that where that went, but I'm wondering about $18,000 that you started at.
Yes. Through you, Mr. Mayor. We've had a couple of iterations of proposed design works for this particular project. And it started with drain 102. And we had some discussions with Mr. Gibson about the watershed, especially in the swamp, right? And so we met with Mr. Gibson on site, and we come up with what we thought we were in agreement on at the time for the boundary of the watershed boundary within the swamp, which is very, very difficult to determine. And I believe in this case, when the water levels get to be a certain level, they flow in two different outlets. Some of it flows to drain 102, and then as the water level recedes, then it only flows towards the west. So that, oh, and then, so we changed 102. We revised the watershed for that. And then the next proposal was to have all of John Martin's property drain in through a tile to the back of his property there, which would have been taking water from one watershed into another. And when we felt we were taking additional water from lands outside the watershed, that should be more of an allowance towards Mr. Gibson than just the water that naturally goes there based on topography. So that's how that changed.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So now we are going to deliberate. So the Court of Revision is going to move into that room and have a little discussion. So if you don't mind, we're going to excuse ourselves. So we'll call the meeting back to order, and I'll ask our clerk to read the Court of Revision decision.
Thank you, Chair Turton. The decision is being pronounced on the 8th day of July, 2025 for appeal number 1, applicant Jim Gibson. The appeal summary is that the assessment cost of $5,510 on roll number 1-157-50, lot 42, concession 7 be shared by all landowners of drain 119, excuse me, and that the decision is that the assessment of costs on lot 42, concession 7, roll number 1-157-50 stands as assessed.
Thank you. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you
Through
very
you,
much.
if I may.
Yep, go ahead.
Further appeal rights. So if there's any dissatisfaction with the Court of Revision, which were pronounced today, anyone may appeal this decision with a notice to the clerk and to the Agricultural, Food and Rural Affairs within 21 days after the date of this decision.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll take a moment if anybody wants to exit the council chambers. And we'll ask the rest of our council to come back in. Matt, could you do that, please? I'm not sure where they went. Maybe they went to the cafeteria.
Jason,
I'd like to thank everybody for your patience during our deliberation period. So we have a resolution. We're going to move right along in our council meeting. Resolution moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the Town of Minto Court of Revision convenes into Committee of Adjustments. All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you. Today we have a public hearing. It's MB 2025-04, Von Westerholt, 5746 Wellington Road 87. I'll call this public meeting to order, and any decision reached by this committee today cannot be used to set a precedent. Each application considered by the committee is dealt with on its own merits, and no two applications are exactly the same. The public hearing is to consider a minor variance application, MV 2025-04. It's the Von Westerholt property. And I'll ask our Secretary Treasurer, Mick Robb, to state some information for us.
Thank you, Chair Turton. The location is legally described as concession 9 part. Lot 29 is municipally known as 5746 Wellington Road 87 in the town of Minto. The subject property is approximately 41.5 hectares or 77.5 acres. The purpose and effect of this minor variance application is to seek relief from the minimum interior side yard requirements to permit the relocation and expansion of the grain storage bins. Sections 8.2.4 of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 01-86 as amended require a minimum interior side yard of 60 feet or 18.3 meters. However, a reduced interior side yard of 10 feet or 3 meters is proposed. Additional relief may be considered at the time of this meeting. The notices were mailed to the property owners within 200 feet or 60 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies on June 16, 2025, and posted on the subject property on June 16, 2025. Following reports have been given to council for review from the Town of Minto Planning Coordinator and from the Planner of Wellington County. I can advise that I did not have any speakers registered to participate in this public hearing.
Okay, then I will ask our Director of Building and Planning Services, Mr. Gary Kikis, is there anything you would like to add here, Gary?
Perfect.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Chair Turton. So as mentioned, the purpose of this application is to relocate a series of bins that are currently located on the property, relocating them to or adjacent to the easterly side property line. I would like to mention that the adjacent property is owned by the same individual. They are separate deeds, but they are owned by the same person. Staff have reviewed the application. And even though the setback relief is down to 10 feet, there's still sufficient room within the subject property to construct, maintain, and get around these bins. So staff has no concern with the application.
Okay, Mr. Von Westerholt, any questions from you, sir?
No, I don't have any questions. That's exactly what the
Yeah,
Building
just-
inspector
Just
said.
state your name for the record, please.
My name is Hubertus von Westerholt. I'm the owner of the property there, and the neighbors, this is my brother and myself, we own that property as well. And we just wanted to move the bins from one place to another and build another bin out where these four bins are coming from.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the chamber today that would like to speak one way or the other on this? Seeing none, I'm going to ask our committee, questions from council. Councillor Dirksen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question on the, sorry, is that 10 feet or 10 meters? It's 10 feet, right?
It is 10 feet,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, my eyes are fooling me here. I guess my question would be, if that property next door was not owned by the same family, I think it was you made the comment that there's enough room to get around the corner of the bin. I don't know what width, because 10 feet's not very much for a grain buggy and so on. So I'm just wondering if it wasn't, I guess I'm just wondering are you going around the other three sides? Because I'm not sure 10 feet is going to be enough.
So the 10 feet would be more for like the construction at the time of the bin. There's going to be
Oh,
a
I
yard
see,
out
okay.
front, so that's where all the equipment is going to be turned. So it's just for essentially that regardless of who owns the adjacent property, staff couldn't support allowing or insinuating that with the construction of the bin, you need to access the adjacent property. So with the 10 feet, there's still sufficient room, staff feels.
Sure, okay. And then when the bins are being used, they don't need to go around the end.
That is
I
correct.
mean, they
Yep.
probably will because they own the property, but if at one point they were owned by different people, you just couldn't do that.
That's correct. Yep.
Unless somebody came back for another little discussion. Sure, get along with your neighbor. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Pottenmitz, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, through you, Chair. Are there any motorized fans or anything on these bins?
Fans on the bin.
Oh, there's fans on the bins, and each bin is an aeration fan.
There is an aeration fan. Okay, so
You
no
have to
concern.
have that in when you store your grain in there,
Okay,
you have to put some, yes.
in my past experience, I've dealt with something like this before. There was always complaints from the neighbors about the noise from these fans because the
Mhm.
fans were, I guess, the property line. This may not be a big issue, I guess, with
No, there's
You
no
own
house
the
on
properties,
on
but-
either, on that property.
Other questions? All right. Any response? You're okay? No questions, Mr. Von Westerholt? No? Okay. So I'm going to ask our Secretary Treasurer McRob to provide a resolution for us.
Sorry, could we just ask if there are any persons wishing to speak to the application to come forward at this time as well?
I did ask that,
Sorry, did you?
yes, and nobody
Ramsey.
came up, so if we're okay, if there's any now, please step up. If not, we'll move along.
Thank you. Sorry, I missed that.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
So Chair Turton, I think I will provide for the committee to consider a motion to approve. Upon a resolution being carried or defeated, the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment is to be signed by all members of the Committee of Adjustment in favor of the decision. The motion put forward is that the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment approves the application by Robert, oh, sorry, wrong one. Why are we reading the wrong one? My apologies.
It's quite all right.
It is, I'm going to read it from the paper.
Okay.
That was also the incorrect one. Okay, is it Max?
Yep.
Von Westerholt, for the property legally described as concession 9, lot 29, and municipally known as 5746 Wellington Road 87 in the town of Minto, seeks relief from section 8.2.4 to permit a minimum interior side yard setback of 10 feet or 3 meters to allow for the relocation and expansion of the grain storage bins.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions? Hearing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Thank you. You can stay for the rest of the meeting, sir, if you want. If not, you can vacate. I know you've likely got other things to do.
Right now.
Next item on the agenda is a public, sorry,
Can we officially adjourn this?
Oh,
public
yes.
hearing? Sorry, and with the wishing to receive a copy.
am I skipping ahead? I would like to officially adjourn the public hearing. Okay. I should also read. I really jumped ahead, Emily.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
I apologize.
No, that's right.
Anyone wishing to receive a copy of the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment in respect to the minor variance application must make a written request to the clerk of the town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89 Hairston, NOG 1ZO, or by email at annaline@pound.minto.on.ca. And now I'll officially adjourn the public hearing. We'll move along to the next public hearing is to do with the MV 2025-05, Robert Harris, 167 Margaret Street South, Hairston. I will be the chair of this public hearing, and any decision reached by this committee today cannot be used to set a precedent. Each application considered by the committee is dealt with on its own merits, and no two applications are exactly the same. This public hearing is to consider a minor variance application, MV 2025-05, Robert Harris. And I'll ask our Secretary Treasurer McRob to state the following.
Thank you. The property subject to the proposed minor variance application is legally described as Lot 7, Part Lot 8, and is municipally known as 167 Margaret Street South, Hairston, in the town of Minto. The subject property is approximately 248.5 meters squared, or 2,674.93 feet squared. The purpose and effect of this minor variance application is to seek relief from the minimum exterior side yard setback to the dwelling unit and accessory structure, the maximum lot coverage, and to permit the construction of an accessory structure without the establishment of the principal use. Sections 10.2.5 and 6.1.2 of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw as amended requires a minimum exterior side yard of 6 meters or 19.7 feet to the dwelling unit as an accessory structure, whereas an exterior side yard setback of 1.52 meters or 5 feet is proposed to the dwelling unit, and 3.96 meters or 13 feet to the accessory structure. Section 10.2.8 of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaws 0186 as amended permits a maximum lot coverage of 40%, where 60% lot coverage is proposed. Section 6.1.5A requires the principal use to be established on a property prior to an accessory use. However, the applicant is requesting that an accessory structure is permitted to be constructed on a vacant property prior to the construction of the dwelling unit. Additional relief may be considered at the time of the meeting. The notices were mailed to the property owners within 200 feet or 60 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies on June 25th, 2025, and posted on the subject property on June 25th, 2025. Reports have been received from the town of Minto and Wellington County. I can advise that I have not have any registered speakers for the public hearing at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll ask our chief billing official, Mr. Terry Kuipers, to give us some information on this.
Perfect. Thank you, Chair Turton. As was mentioned, the purpose, there's 4 different requests within this minor variance application. So a reduction of the exterior side yard setback down to 5 feet to the dwelling unit. Reduction to the exterior side yard setback down to 13 feet for the detached garage. To permit the construction of the detached garage without a principal use or prior to the house being constructed. As well as an increased lot coverage from 40% to 60%. The committee may recall dealing with a minor variance on this property back in May 27th of this year. Under the scope of that minor variance application, an increase of lot coverage from 40% to 45% was approved, as well as a reduced exterior side yard setback from 20 feet down to 10. So that was approved on the subject site a couple of months ago. So staff have reviewed the proposed application and do have concerns with all 4 requests being asked. With respect to the exterior side yard setback to the house, the application was not clear in terms of whether the relief is just being sought to the house itself or to an attached garage. The committee may recall that as a condition of the previous approval of the minor variance, there was a condition that that reduced exterior side yard setback down to 10 feet did not apply to an attached garage. So staff is not clear as to what the intent or the nature or extent of the intent of what's being asked. Staff also do have concerns about inadvertent encroachments down the road. People like building flower beds and planting trees and stuff like that. With only a distance of 5 feet from the dwelling to the property line, chances are, or it's likely to occur that inadvertent encroachments onto town property will occur. Again, being nothing was mentioned with respect to relief or not to the attached garage. There are potential site triangle issues if we're located be 20 feet from Margaret Street, but then our Margaret Street property line, sorry, but then only 5 feet from the Pellister Street exterior side property line. With respect to the request for the reduced exterior side yard setback to the detached garage to the rear of the dwelling unit, staff have concerns with it. Typically with detached garages as well as attached garages, everyone parks on the driveway. Not a lot of people like parking within their garage. So a vehicle parked on the driveway leading up to that detached garage will be partially on the town's boulevard. So staff do have concerns with that. The intent of the location of that detached garage is to align with the attached garage on the adjacent property. It is indicated in my report, however, that previous attached garage was approved under the merits of its own minor variance. There are site constraints on the adjacent property that was the only location that they could construct that attached garage. There was a house with a covered porch to the rear of that attached garage, so moving it forward towards Pellister Street property line was their only option at that time. The other request or another request that was being asked for is the construction of the detached structure prior to the construction of the dwelling unit. Staff have concerns with this as well. And it's kind of twofold. One, you can't establish an accessory use to something that there is no principal use. So essentially the detached garage would not be accessory to something, it is the principal use if it's constructed prior to the dwelling. The other thing for the committee's consideration is that there would be no mechanism to, I don't mean to say force, but to ensure that the dwelling unit is constructed in the near future or within 10 years. There's no mechanism for the committee to ensure that that is going to happen. Lastly, the request for the increased lot coverage from 40%, which is under the base zone, or 45% that was previously approved, to 60%. Staff also have concerns about this as well. In the application documents, the proposal is for a 1,600 square foot bungalow plus this detached garage in the back. Running the numbers, it equates to about 25%, 26% lot coverage as proposed. So staff is not sure why the request is for 60% lot coverage, which is well in addition to what the applicant has indicated they are proposing on the site. So staff is not satisfied that the proposed application meets the four tests, sorry, of a minor variance application. Although staff is not in support of the application, if the committee chooses to approve the application, staff is requesting that conditions be added to that approval. That the relief being sought is subject to the approval or the finalization of the severance application that's also ongoing on this property. To essentially, these provisions apply only to the corner lot, not to the other created interior lot on the same property. That in addition to the exterior setback relief being sought, no additional encroachments would be permitted. So covered porches, stairs, any of those items could not encroach further within that 5 feet that's proposed. And lastly, that the exterior side yard setback relief does not apply to an attached garage. So if there are any questions by the committee, I'm more than happy to address them.
Thank you, Terry. I think we'll move along to Mr. Harris first. If you can answer questions or you want to go to the mic and talk to us, then we'll get to the question after you're complete. Is that all right, Terry? All right, thank you.
Thank you. First, I got to thank Terry. In 6 years, I don't think he's ever supported anything I've ever done, so we're running 100%. Anyways, just to cut it in half, the secondary garage, I'm going to forget about. So the only thing I'm asking for now is the 5 feet minor variance and a 60-foot lot coverage for the house. That's the only things I'm asking for. And Terry was concerned about the snow on the side street on Pallister. There's been a fence there for 30 years and the snow has never got to the fence. So what's on the other side of the fence, I don't think is anybody's concern other than my own. And to back up a bit, I'm asking for the extra 5 feet because on Margaret Street and Pallister Street, thanks to the building department, both them, the adjacent garages on the other properties are both on my property. So it's taken the minor variance away from one side of each property. So with the extra 5 feet, it'll just move the houses so that there's a bit more free land between them that makes it more curb appeal when you drive by. It's not that there's going to be building encroached. It's just instead of 2 lots it being 4 feet apart each, they'll be 13 feet. And I just think it's curb appeal and it just makes everything more viable. So thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, so if you just want to, if that's where we're at right now here. Let me just be clear. I've already screwed this up once. So is there anybody in the court, in the council chambers today that wants to speak in reference to this application? Go ahead, sir. Yeah, if you go to the mic, Mr. Harris will give you the opportunity. If you don't mind stating your name. you
My
can
name
have
is
the
Steve
floor.
Cronsberry, 187 John Street, just around the corner. I'm not here to appeal. My question is, we have a bylaw in place for building, and alls I read in the paper is minor variance, minor variance, minor variance. And I'm just like, it just astounds me that we're trying to put people closer and closer and closer together. And so I'm thinking, why do we have a bylaw? We might as well just scrap the bylaw and just have it wide open. And as we want to build, we come to council and ask what we, what we can do and stuff like that. There are some places in this town now where you could pass something through the window to the next place. And I think it's wrong. But anyways, I'm not appealing it. I'm just asking a question.
Thank you, Mr. Cronsberry. Terry, you want to answer that? Thank you.
Yes, I can try. The recent trend with not only development that we've seen locally in Minto here, but across the board, is more and more people are trying to push the envelope. Not necessarily just spearheaded by the developers themselves, but also provincially driven. The province has decreased the size of the lots that we're seeing in town, which everyone still wants a big house on a small property. So instead of being able to comply with or get their big house that they want on a big lot, now we're trying to we're trying to place that same house on a smaller lot. So it's making some constraints or some issues from the developers end of things as well. So I don't know, Steve, that didn't probably answer all of your questions, but yeah.
I guess my next question is that I don't know, is the setback from eave or is it from wall?
The setback is measured from the foundation wall. But as I mentioned during my report presentation, no additional encroachments are permitted within that setback, which means that it does include eaves as well. So depending on what eave extension that Mr. Harris would want, has the potential of shifting it in 16 more inches. So.
Thanks for the question, Steve. I know that we've had.
Just if I might add something, I couldn't agree with this man more about minor variances, but the fact that the house is on a corner property, the house will be still 25 feet from the edge of the road. So it's not that it's encroaching on anything. Thank you.
I think Steve's point was, and I kind of agree with Steve. I know that a lot of these decisions we can make them, but we also push back quite a bit. Talking to other mayors in the county, it seems to us that the lots are getting smaller, but the buildings are getting bigger. So there's more square footage in a lot of these homes than there is when you have a larger lot. So I'm going to open up the floor here to questions. You can designate who you're sending the question to if there's questions. Councillor Pontovitz.
I guess question for Terry. You've looked at the site triangle on this property with that five-foot setback, Terry?
So I have, and it would create sightline issues going in there. And however, having said that, relief for that encroachment within that site triangle was not requested. So if it is put in there, we do have mechanisms in order to, or if the garage is on that side, sorry, have mechanisms to protect it.
Well, it sounds like he's just asking for that one relief at this point of the 5-foot setback.
So the applicant has amended the application to retain the request for the 5-foot exterior side yard setback and for the 60% lot coverage increase.
And another question would be, he's basing that 5-foot setback on creating more space between the two houses. What kind of setback would they have from the property lines on those interior side yards?
So the minimum interior side yard setback required, and again, it's a minimum, is 3.9 feet or 1.2 meters. With the approved reduction to the exterior side yard setback down to 5 feet does not ensure that that 5 feet is being placed on the other side of the house. Yeah, so it would be up to the Mr. Harris or whoever subsequently would build on there as to what they chose that interior side yard to be from a physical construction aspect.
And there's no indication of why he's asking for 60%.
That would be a better question for Mr. Harris.
I'd like to have that answer.
Pardon me, what was your question?
Why are you asking for 60%?
What was that?
60% lot coverage. Why are you asking for that amount?
I'm asking for 60%, yes.
Yes. Why?
Why? Well, I don't suppose I'll need it now because I'm not building the garage, but I'm building the house for myself, so it's the house is 1,600 feet plus a double garage. And apparently when you put a porch on the back, that's included as part of the lot coverage, which to me is crazy, but I guess that's my only reason. And when it comes down to it, it's all about tax dollars. So the bigger the house, the more tax dollars. So I don't see the problem. But that's up to you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor Wright.
The minor variance application includes the garage. How do we change that midway? Can that happen, or how do we deal with that?
Sorry, who do you want to send that question to, sir?
Terry, probably?
Yes, I can
Okay.
definitely field that. The application or the scope of the application can be amended as we go. Additional relief cannot be granted, so a reduction of a exterior side yard setback down to 1 foot could not happen without recirculation to the public. However, a decrease in the asks can, which is what Mr. Harris is doing. So there's no concern with removing those two requests from the scope.
Okay, so the applicant would read then an amendment to this.
The committee has the choice to approve the application however they choose to, regardless of what the applicant is indicating. So the committee, if the application was to move forward as originally proposed, the committee does have the authority to approve all of the requests asked or a portion thereof. So in this case, yeah, the scope of the detached garage could be removed from the approved or denied template, and the merits of the other two requests be weighed by the committee.
Thank you.
Other questions? Deputy Mayor Anderson, go ahead.
So I'm sorry, I'm going back to this, the 60% coverage. I'm not clear on this. We're asking for a detached garage, which he's now eliminating from the request,
Correct.
but he's going to have an attached garage as well
Yes, and
on the
that
house?
that was not clear under the scope of the application, whether or
Okay.
not that there was an attached garage or not.
So 60%, so with the detached garage and not the attached garage, we were only looking at 25% coverage. So how big is the attached garage? Is it going to make up the difference between, like, I don't understand the 60% request.
That's Terry.
Well, that's not Terry. You're
Yeah.
asking for 60% coverage.
Terry gave me 45, but.
Bob, would you like to go to the mic, please? Mr. Harris,
And it won't be 60 now, but it's
Mr.
better to
Harris,
ask for more than less.
please go to the microphone.
Sorry.
No,
So
that's
what,
fine.
your question again?
What is the reason for the 60%? It doesn't seem to require that amount. And you just talked about lot sizes being shrunk and houses being crammed onto them. Why would you want to use up 60% of the lot? Why not just have a smaller building on there? And the same with the 5-foot side yards. Like, your house is going to be way too big for the property the way you're asking for.
I don't agree with you there.
Okay.
But there's a lot of houses in Harrison, they're 1,600 feet with a double garage. That's all I'm asking for.
Right, but they don't ask for 60% of the lot.
Well,
The
if that-
60%
if
lot
that's-
coverage is
no,
unusual.
nobody's ever took the time to calculate the 60%. Maybe it's only 52. I have no idea.
Well, I would think if you're building the property and you have to ask for a
The
variance,
last,
60%, you would have done some sort of
well,
calculations.
it's not too long ago, I asked somebody and they said, well, we just approved one in, Clifford and there was no problem with it, so I didn't think it was a big deal. I suppose if we, Terry took 5 minutes out and calculated a 1,600 square foot house and a 28 by 28 garage, you'd come up with the answer.
We have the answer in the report.
Well, not really. Nobody ever told anybody what the measurements are.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
And as far as the minor variance, I'm just gonna put it with the house so it makes the two houses look further apart. Because the inner house has no side yard because of the garage of the neighbors. That's all. We're just trying to add to the curb appeal, that's all.
You understand that? You understand what he's saying?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
But
So I think we were talking about a 132 by a 132 lot, and it's not
Mhm.
100, it's not that. On both sides of his property, there's encroachment. If you want to call it that, right? You don't have the true number of feet that you thought you had. Did you get your answer, Deputy Mayor Anderson?
I got sufficient amount of it. Thank you.
Okay. Next question? Go ahead,
I'm almost scared.
Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you. So I also have questions about the 60% lot coverage. So if the detached garage is out of the scope of this, then it's less than 60% anyways. Is that not fair?
So based on the information provided in the application, even with the detached garage of the size indicated, it still equated out to 25% lot coverage.
So in other words, we don't even have to talk about the 60%. Like, it really doesn't matter. It's way below what it needs to be anyway.
And that is what one of staff's concerns were. If you're asking for the 1,600 square foot plus the detached garage, what is the ask for the 60% lot coverage? Staff was not sure where that came from.
Okay, so it might be a math mistake, but like, is it not common just to go back to the applicant and say, what are you talking about?
Going by, we approved an increase in lot coverage a couple of months ago from 45% to 60%.
40 to 45.
Sorry, 40 to
yeah.
45%. Now we're getting another
I know, it's
ask
getting
for
confusing.
60 and we're sitting at 25.
Yeah.
Staff was not sure of what the intent of the final build out is.
Okay, and do we know which side of the house it's two-car garage, I think, if I understand correctly. Do we know which side of the house it's on? Is it on the Pellister side or is it on the interior side?
Mr. Harris would have to answer that.
Sure, I'd love to have Mr. Harris answer that.
What was the question? I'm having trouble hearing.
That's okay. I'm wondering which side of the house your two-car attached garage is on. Is it on the Pellister side or is it on the interior side? of
It's on the inner side,
Inner side.
on the north side of the house, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And the adjacent house will have a single car garage.
Okay,
So I guess in reality, I'm gonna live there myself, so I'm trying to build it what I want.
sure.
Yeah.
And so your eve then, because, I mean, if we go with staff's recommendation on the no encroachments, the 5-foot side yard on Pellister sides, on the Pellister Street side, then it's actually the eve that would be 5 feet from the Pellister Street boundary then.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yes, okay.
The house will be still 25 feet from the,
Oh, yeah, there's quite a,
From,
yeah, it looks
Pallister
extra
Street.
wide because there's no
Yeah.
sidewalk there right now, but yes, I
yeah.
understand that.
I just, as I said before, I just want to take the extra 5 feet and put it between the two houses. So it makes like there's more distance between them because the one house is going to be close to the adjacent house because the garage is on our property.
Right, Yes, I understand that. Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Anderson.
So I'm not clear how the garage got to be on your property. Is that from a previous variance or is it on their property or it doesn't look like it on the drawings?
So the property to the rear of the subject property, so the one along Pellister Street, is approximately 9 inches off the property line.
Okay,
The attached or detached garage, I'm unsure of, on the adjacent Margaret Street property. I don't know if there's an encroachment over the property line. That one, I do not know the answer to.
okay.
So we've not seen any pictures. No drawings of what, and when does that come?
So the only thing that we've received, which formed part of the severance application, is a proposed, it's very faint in this picture, but the building envelope, so essentially the largest proposed dwelling or structure that could be fitted on there. Typically, we don't see any sort of plans or drawings until the building permit stage at this point.
Like 60% lot coverage is definitely a lot. And when we look at the 1,600 square foot house and the 780 square foot double garage. So for Bob's correct in what he said was where he puts his deck in the back of the house or the side of the house, if there's an extension on the roof line, that's considered lot coverage. Not the deck itself. If the deck extends out past the side of the roof, that's included in the lot coverage.
A covered rear deck is included within the lot coverage, yes, or as part of the lot coverage calculation.
Councillor Potnovitz.
One further question. The the encroachment on the eve, in the zoning bylaws, typically they allow like a 1.96 encroachment into the required setback.
Yes.
And you mentioned before that that would be to the wall, it's measured to the wall.
So
Would you not be allowed that encroachment automatically?
So typically, yes, and that is one of the conditions that staff is recommending if the application is approved, would be to essentially, normally, yes, setbacks are measured to, or the setback of a structure is measured to the foundation with a permitted encroachment within that setback. But being staff have concerns about the current proposed setback to that exterior side property line, we have concerns about things sneaking further and further into that remaining 5 feet. So it would include items that are normally permitted to encroach, like air conditioning units, stairs, porches, other things that are going to get basically right up to the property line.
Just to follow up then, so if he stayed with the mandatory setback off Pellister Street, the 25-foot, whatever it is, and he had the 5 foot to the overhang, would there still be a site triangle issue?
Not if the setbacks were met. So so our normal front yard and exterior side yard setback are both 20 feet. They would put the location of the dwelling unit past the site triangle.
I think what I asked was if we was granted the 5 foot setback on the exterior side yard to the E and 25 foot setback on the front, would there still be a site triangle issue there?
I would need to rerun those numbers. Again, relief is not being sought for that site triangles. That's in our zoning bylaws, so there would be, mechanics to ensure that it would be sufficient far enough, regardless of that exterior side yard setback.
Other questions? So there's 4 items on the agenda. 3 of them have been removed. Two. Okay, so what I've got is the 60% Is that still in the cards here?
Yes, the two reliefs that were requested to be removed was the construction of the accessory building prior to the principal.
Yep.
And the 13-foot setback
Right.
to the face of the detached garage. The other two are still on the table.
Do you want me to read it?
Would you?
Thank
please?
you. Okay,
Please
so
read
I
out
I
the-
believe what the applicant is now asking for is seeking relief from section 10.2.5 and 10.2.8 to permit a minimum exterior side yard setback of 1.52 meters or 5 feet to the dwelling unit and a maximum lot coverage of 60%. So it's similar to what was passed last time. This is just asking for further reduction.
So we're going from 45 to 60.
And 3 meters to
Right.
1.52 meters.
So realistically, and I agree with what's been said here, that 60% is really off the wall. We've reduced, there's going to be no auxiliary building, accessory building, no garage. I don't know how big that was, but that's considerably reduced it. I've done a little math here and we're nowhere near 60%, so. Other questions? Anything? Counselor Zimmerman, go ahead.
So yes, those numbers keep spilling over in my mind too. So if we were to rent this 60%, Mr. Harris has indicated he's gonna build a 1,600 square foot bungalow. But if we allow 60%, that could mean that he could change the size of the bungalow theoretically.
Yep.
So, yeah, I struggle with that. So anyway, that was my question.
What are you suggesting?
Stick with the 45 and let's be happy.
Okay,
We agreed on 45%. I think that's very fair.
we
And,
also agreed on the 10 feet.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
That's my,
Okay. Anything else? Go ahead, Counselor Dirksen.
So I'm looking at this and if that gray thing is, like if that's kind of where the house may end up and just how much lot coverage it would take. Could that lot, the one we're talking about, could it be severed again and have, a house on it off of Hollister Street?
So I did not run the numbers whether an additional severance to the rear of a proposed dwelling, whether it would meet lot area and coverage requirements. We have seen instances like that in other parts of our town where people are doing backyard severances with, again, these smaller lot provisions that the province has put on us. So I can't answer that 100%.
Or I guess there would be room for an additional dwelling unit back there.
That would be correct.
So without a severance. So, and I'm gonna say we encourage that. So if we left it at 60%, then that leaves Mr. Harris some options of what he can do there. He wouldn't have to come back to us again. Started back twice to fix this, so, I mean, yes, I agree. I don't need a calculator to figure out that house is nowhere near 60%. But, I mean, I'd like to leave the options open anyways. That'd be my thought.
All right, so do we understand the motion?
So through you, Chair Turton, I can provide a motion to council just based on the last conversation that was held, just approving for that 60%. So if you just give me 1 second, I will pull one together and read it out for consideration of the committee.
So we split them up and have two motions, is that what you're saying?
Well, we'll start with one motion and then
Okay.
we'll see if it is approved or denied, and then we can always move forward and change it. So I think originally we had the motion. Do we want to do the motion with both the 60% and the 5 foot, or just with the 60%? I think I need direction from the
What's
committee
your
on that.
preference?
I say both.
Start with that? Okay, so I would read that it would be approved, the application by Robert Harris for the property legally described as Lot 7 and Part Lot 8, municipally known as 167 Margaret Street, South Harrison, in the town of Minto, seeking relief from sections 10.2.5 and 10.2.8 to permit a minimum exterior side yard setback of 1.52 meters or 5 feet to the dwelling unit and a maximum lot coverage of 60% with conditions that the relief is subject to the final approval of consent application B925 and applies only to the retained lot. And the relief permitted does not permit any encroachments as permitted under section 6.37 of the town of Minto's comprehensive zoning bylaw and is amended. It says the exterior side yard setback shall not apply to the attached garage. So those are the conditions that would be placed within that approval. Is that correct, Terry, through you? I just want to double check that.
Yes, that is correct. One thing the committee should, may want to step out to delegate which direction they want to go. If this is voted on and turned down, a new motion cannot be brought forward to be re-voted on. So I don't know if the committee's satisfied approving both of the asks, it's not a problem, but I just want to ensure that if you're going to vote, you can't change the motion after the fact is the only thing I wanted
Do
to
you want to
mention.
delegate in closed? Okay,
So can we step into that?
yes,
All right.
thank you. So we'll
So then
delegate.
we're
in
gonna have
closed.
a short. Okay, thank you. I'd like to call the meeting to order again, and I'll ask our clerk McRob to read the motion.
Thank you. I will read a motion for the committee to consider upon a resolution being carried or defeated. The notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment is to be signed by all members of the Committee of Adjustment in favor of the decision. Let's pull it up here. The decision is that the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment approve the application by Robert Harris for the property legally described as Lot 7 and part of Lot 8, municipally known as 167 Margaret Street, South Harrison, in the Town of Minto, seeking relief from section 10.2.8 for a maximum lot coverage of 60%. So again, this is approving just section 10.2.8 for a maximum lot coverage of 60% with no conditions.
And we need a mover and a second, please. Well, Councilor Platt, it's okay. Everybody understands what we're voting on. I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Anyone wishing to receive a copy of the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment in respect to the minor variance application must make a written request to the clerk of the town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89, Hairston, NOG 1Z0, or by email at annaline@town.minto.on.ca. And if there's no further questions, I will officially adjourn the public meeting. Thank you very much. Got a motion, a resolution moved by Councillor Potvin, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment convene into the Committee of the Whole. And we have a public meeting. And it has, it's a ZBA 2025-02, Calvin Fry, or Frey, apologize, 5129-5135, 15th line. And I will chair this public meeting in I'll ask Clerk McRob to. Okay, we've ensured that everybody that has signed in. I'm going to say if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Town of Minto before the bylaw is passed, person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Town of Minto to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and the person or public body may not be added as party to the hearing of the appeal before the tribunal unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. I'll ask our clerk to state the municipal address and legal description of the property, please.
Yes, thank you. The property subject to the proposed amendment is located at concession 14, lot 41, and is municipally known as 5129-513550 Line, Town of Minto. The subject property has a total area of 40.46 hectares or 100 acres. The purpose and effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject lands to permit a metal fabrication shop as an on-farm diversified use and remove existing site-specific permissions for a school. The notices were mailed to the property owners within 400 feet or 120 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies, and posted on the subject property on June 11th, 2025. Reports have been provided for council's review from both Wellington County and Town of Minto. And I will pass it back to Chair Jordan.
Okay. I'm going to ask our county planner, Safari, to give her report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of council. I'm presenting the report for the zoning bylaw amendment applications at the 2005-02 for your consideration. The property subject to the application is municipally known as 5129-513515 Line. The purpose of this application is to rezone a portion of subject lands from agriculture to agriculture site specific to facilitate construction of a metal fabrication shop. The proposed amendment will also remove the existing site-specific permissions for a school and add the permissions for the metal fabrication shop. The subject property is designated as primary agriculture and core green lands in the County Official Plan. It is noted that the proposed building is outside the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority regulated area. Farm business is a permitted use within the prime agriculture designation. Further, as per province's guidelines on permitted uses in Ontario's prime agriculture areas, farm business is a permitted use, provided the land, provided the use is located on the farm, is secondary to agriculture use, is limited in area, and is compatible and shall not hinder the agriculture uses. As per the township zoning bylaw, the subject property is zoned agriculture exception A50 and NE. A draft zoning bylaw amendment has been prepared and is attached with the report for council's consideration. Thank you.
I thank you. We'll move along. CBO Kuipers, is there anything you would like to add, please?
Thank you, Mayor Turton. The only thing I did want to mention was a comment from Public Works or mainly directed to the applicant, that the 15th line that this property is located on is a low priority road in terms of our road classification. It's gravelled and winter maintenance, and that it's one of the later roads that get established. So I'm sure the applicant, after living there, is aware of that, but we just wanted, Public Works just wanted that to be mentioned. That's all.
Okay, so we'll have questions in a few moments if Mr. Calvin Fry wants to step to the mic. Is there questions or anything you guys would like to talk about? Oh, we'd like to meet you anyway, sir.
My name is Calvin Fry, and I'm the owner of the 5135 property, and if somebody has any more questions here, that's all I have.
All right, so if you don't mind just standing there for a second, I'm going to open up the floor. Anybody off the floor wants to speak to this application? Okay, now I'm going to open it up to our council members. Questions? Councillor Potnowitz.
Yes, through you, Chair. I'm assuming this has to go through site plan approval.
Our site plan control bylaw does not apply to the rural property, so it's not subject to that.
Okay, is there anything in our zoning bylaw that deals with external materials on the property? You should have steel hanging around the outside or you know, that type of thing.
I believe our home industry provisions do have outdoor storage limitations. I just don't recall off the top of my head what they are.
Other questions? Okay. Mr. Fry, is there anything that you want to, exactly what it is, you want to tell us exactly what you're doing, or is that secret?
So we're manufacturing feed bins. And we're also sandblasting and spray painting and metal fabrication is the main thing.
Mainly, inside the building.
Yes, the fabricating stays inside. That's
Okay.
awesome.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Other questions? No other questions? Okay, so I'm going to say that you wish to be notified of the decision of the council of the town of Minto in respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application. You must make a written request to the clerk of the town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89, Harrison, NOG 1Z0, or by email at annaline@town.minto.on.ca. And if there's no further comments, any further comments? No further comments. I'll adjourn the public meeting. So thank you very much. We have no delegations today, but we're at public question period. And I'm going to state that the mayor, as the chair of the meeting, has a duty to preserve order and maintain decorum throughout the meeting. Although council strives to hear and be responsive to residents' concerns, in order to preserve order, maintain decorum, and comply with the town's procedural bylaw, I wish to caution any participants in question period that questions that are used discourteous language will not be permitted. Questions that seek policies or bylaws outside the town's jurisdiction, including policies or bylaws that might violate human rights legislation, will not be permitted. Anything that constitutes speeches or statements not in the form of a question will not be permitted, and repeat questions will not be permitted, including the repetition of questions from prior meetings. All persons shall be limited to no more than 2 questions. So we are at question period. Anybody has a question, please step to the mic, state your name and state the question. Hearing none, we're going to move along to correspondence. Sir.
Just want to make sure that these gentlemen are welcome to stay or
Okay,
to leave.
yep. So I'll give you the same advice that I give everyone else. If you guys want to stay and participate in the rest of the meeting, that's fine. If not, you want to go do things that you like you should be doing, feel free to do that. Okay? Thank you for coming.
Question period is over then?
Almost.
I have not. Question period is still on. Thank you, gentlemen. Take care.
Sorry, Steve Cronsberry, 187 John Street. So that 60% that got passed. So can he build a duplex there if he wants?
No, the zoning of that property is R1B, which only permits a single-family detached dwelling. However, having said that, both our zoning bylaw as well as the Planning Act does permit as of right a principal dwelling unit with an attached ADU or 2 attached ADUs and potentially 1 detached ADU or accessory dwelling unit.
Okay. Understand, Steve?
I think so.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Okay, so we'll move along to correspondence. Is there other questions before we move? Seeing none, we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that the council receive the correspondence as information. We have 7 items on the agenda. Is there anything there that anyone wants to have further discussion about?
Yes.
Councillor
through you-
Bottovich, go
through
ahead.
you, Chair. I think we should consider supporting that resolution for the opposition to bill.
Okay. So anything else? We'll lump them if there's others that we want to support. Okay, so go ahead, Councillor Zimmerman.
I do think we should consider the report on the use of road salt. I know that seems like it doesn't affect us, but it's going to affect our future generations. So consider alternatives. We should look at that as well.
Okay. Hearing that, Clerk McRob, will we vote on those two items?
I'm just pulling up those items now so I can see what the
Okay.
motions were made within them,
So it's
so we can,
10B and 10F. And the motion was to support.
so the first one was the city of Pickering. So we're just going, are we wishing to just support the city of Pickering, and are we wishing to provide this correspondence to anyone specific?
Go ahead, Councillor Zimmerman. What are you thinking?
That was,
No,
sorry,
that
that
was
was
Councillor
Councillor
Podnick.
Podnick.
No,
Oh, pardon me.
that was Bill 5.
Yes, that's the Bill 5 one.
Um,
So, I mean, we can send it just back to the city of Pickering, but do you want to send it to Stephen Leach and?
I just looking to see if they, who they circulate out there.
Yeah.
Send it to everybody.
We sent it to a bunch of First Nation as well, and we could send it to all those noted except for sure, like the regional municipality of Durham.
With
The
the first.
AMO we want to do, and but not all Ontario municipalities.
So what about the first 6? And AMO?
Councillor,
That makes perfect sense, actually.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, sir.
if we just send it to AMO, that would circulate to.
AMO usually would forward it on to.
Okay, you okay with that, Councillor
I'm
Podnovitz?
fine with that, yes.
All right. The second item then is the salt.
Sorry, can we get a motion for
Yeah,
that?
well, Councillor Podnovitz, are you making that a motion?
Yes.
So we have a seconder, Deputy Mayor Anderson. And do you mind if we include your motion in that as well, Mr. Councillor Zimmerman? Is that okay?
We have these motions separate. It's
Okay.
easier to send
All
this
right.
is going to AMO and such, so we
Okay,
can have these separated. So
so,
we just need to-
okay. The next item then is
Sorry, can we just call for the vote on
Yep.
that one? Sorry.
call the question. All in favor of that motion? That's carried.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Next is the town of Bracebridge road salt.
And I'm just gonna pull that up. This was from Bracebridge.
Yep. And it's sent to, copy to the Premier, Minister of the Environment, Attorney General, and our MP.
Mr. Mayor, we have to be careful what we're committing to here because it says, public reporting on annual use. I believe that that's not something we've done before, so not
Mhm.
saying that we should not, but just don't want to drive into
Go ahead.
something we're not ready to
Clerk
do.
McBride.
Sorry, through you, Mayor. What you could do is ask a report come back on this to give you further information
yes.
if you would like, if that was Mr. Zimmerman's request.
I think that would be fine.
Okay, do we have a second for that? Councillor Dirksen? So a report on salt usage, I'm sure Mr. McIsaac will have some input on this. I know that's something that they talk about a lot. So everybody understands the question? All in favor of the motion? That's carried. And then we'll on the correspondence, all in favor of the court receiving the correspondence, what's left? It's carried, thank you. Okay. We have committee minutes for approval of the EI committee. We'll ask our Director of Economic Development, Melinda Graham, present these minutes, please.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. I have 3 things here, so I will try to be very brief to move along. The committee met on June 19th. As you'll see as an attachment, they finalized the logo. The action plan I won't walk through, but they are completing many, many actions, and the action plan is a great working group. And thanks to Deputy Mayor Anderson and County Councillor Anderson, we've been really fortunate to get the pantries going in the libraries. We're working on Palmerston, and there's lots of good stuff and not as many issues as we had previously when it was outdoors. So just want to thank them and the county for their support on that. I don't have anything further on the minutes.
Any questions for Belinda? Guess I should read this first. Recommendation moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Pottovitz. The council received the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee minutes on June 19th, 2025 for information, including recommendations contained therein. Questions? All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you very much. Next item is the ECDEV 2025-010. It's patio grant. PO1 Dulce Evan Cookies and Scoops, 107 Wayne Street, Palmerston, and I'll ask Linda Whitgrave to present.
Yep, so this is a basic patio grant application for Dulce Heaven Cookies and Scoops. Carlos did the work himself, so only the material costs are eligible for the grant, which would be $366.23. The committee doesn't meet until September, so voted electronically. This would leave $29,326.17 in the budget for other grant applications. So we're just looking for your approval and support of that grant.
We have a recommendation moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson. Councillor Town Minto hereby receives report ECDEV 2025-010 patio grant P01 at Dulce Heaven Cookies and Scoops, 107 William Street, Palmerston, prepared by the Director, Economic and Community Development for information purposes. Included that Councillor Town Minto approves patio grant P01 for $366.23. Question? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you very much. Next item is a mural at ECDEV 2025-011 mural replacement agreement at 90 Lower Street South in Hairston, and I'll ask Linda to report on this, please.
Yep, so if you recall back during COVID, we received RED funding to do 5 murals in downtown Hairston. This one on the side of the Remax building is deteriorating. It needed to be replaced. We do have a public art rehab fund in our capital budget, and it wasn't spent last year. So to refurbish this one, we will be using last year's money and this year's money. We have an agreement here with Blaze, who has done many great murals across Minto. This one's a bit challenging because we have many stakeholders to try and accommodate with this mural. So I think he's done a really great job. Everyone has now approved of this design. So we have here the property owner agreement, as well as the agreement with the artist to move forward with this. And the goal is to be painting this mural August 4th to 8th. So hopefully these can be approved today. If there's any questions?
So we have a recommendation moved by Councillor Pottovitz, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that Councillor Town Minto hereby received report ECDEV 2025-011. It's a mural replacement agreement, 90 Lower Street South, Hairston, prepared by the Director of Economic and Community Development for information purposes. Further, that Council Town Minto considers a bylaw in regular session authorizing the mayor and the clerk to execute a mural agreement with property owner Remax Midwestern Realty Inc., Dan Keffer. And further, that Council Town Minto considers a bylaw in regular session authorizing the mayor and the clerk to execute an artist agreement with Blaze Word Harma. Questions? He's up on the scaffold, don't beat the horn out, okay? All in favor of the motion? That's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're moving along to a maintenance agreement, PW 2025-015, maintenance agreement with Upper Grand District School Board, walkway and a municipal services easement, and we'll ask our Mark Robertson to present this report.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, as you see, we have the maintenance agreement and easement agreement with the Upper Grand District School Board for the Minto Clifford Public School and the walkway and the services for that property. This agreement cleans up some historic responsibilities that were from the purchase of the Harrison Senior School. We were to maintain the walkway from the public school to George Street or relocate it to an alternate location. Part of that walkway would be going through a future development, and we don't know the timelines on those developments and how long it was going to take for the walkway to be reinstated. So during the reconstruction of Lawrence Avenue a couple years ago, we relocated the walkway onto town lands where the existing servicing for the public school traveled through. We took that opportunity to consolidate the infrastructure, move it over to the right-hand side of the lot, and place an easement over that infrastructure and walkway. This also allowed us to use the rest of the property for any future infrastructure needs that the town may have later on. The agreement lays out the responsibilities for both the board and the town. Those responsibilities for the board are with respect to the walkway and the winter maintenance of it from, I believe it's November until April, the winter maintenance responsibilities, as well as the storm sewer maintenance year round. If there's any cleaning that needs to be done to the storm sewer on any part of that storm that travels through the town lands to Lawrence Ave, the board will be responsible for those. The town's responsibilities are with respect to the water and wastewater services that travel through the town lands, as well as any future capital reconstruction. The term of the agreement is as long as the public school property is zoned institutional and operated as a school. If either one of those change, then the agreement will need to be amended. Overall, the agreement is just to basically set out the responsibilities so everyone knows what they're supposed to do and when to complete them. Are there any questions?
A recommendation moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Dirksen. Councillor Town of Minto hereby receives report PW 2025-015 maintenance agreement with the Upper Grand District School Board, walkway and municipal services easement prepared by the wastewater services manager. For information purposes, approval of Council Town of Minto approves the mayor and the clerk, authorizes the mayor and the clerk to sign and execute a maintenance agreement dated June 2025 as presented. Questions for Bob? No. Go ahead, Councillor Poppins.
Through you, Mayor, what's the surface of the, is it like a pea stone or is it paved or
It's asphalt, yes.
it's asphalt?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I.
That was a reasonably easy agreement to agree to, Mr. Robertson?
In principle, yes, there was some issues with the fine details that took a little bit of time, but yeah, overall, I think it's a good agreement for both parties.
Great. Well, thank you for doing that. I'm going to call the question if there is no question. All in favor of that motion? Carrie, thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate it. Now we're up to the PW 2025-016 Municipal Drain 19 improvement request, and we'll ask drainage superintendent, for the lack of a better word, Ryan Binkley, to present.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. I'll try and keep this relatively quick. This report addresses a request for improvements to Municipal Drain 19 under Section 78 of the Drainage Act. We have received two requests submitted by two property owners on the 11th line in Minto to to address an old tile drainage system that has reached its end of life. This report outlines the request and the drain's current state and potential improvements for council's consideration. Municipal Drain 19, it services about 390 acres of agricultural lands and consists mostly of tile drains with a short section of open drain at the downstream end. The aging infrastructure has led to reported issues, including multiple pipe failures along the main line of the drain, mostly on property 5725 11th line, which has significantly impacted the farming operations on the property. The records I could find to date indicated that this pipe system was installed in 1925 with multiple recorded repairs over the years. The recent 2025 spring melt and the other rainfall events provided to be too much for this 100-year-old system and resulted in 8 to 10 significant blowouts along that section of the tile portion of the drain. You can see in the one photo provided on the report is just one of the many blowouts. So two property owners have submitted the request, and what we're looking to do is replace the necessary tile portion and potentially upsize it to prevent future blowouts. To address this request for improvement, qualified drainage engineers shall conduct a study to evaluate the drain's capacity, condition, and alignment, and provide recommendations that include designs, cost estimates, landowners assessments, and timelines in accordance with Section 78 of the Drainage Act. This process requires that all affected property owners or stakeholders are notified of this process and given an opportunity to include other improvements as deemed necessary. And the MVCA has been notified, and they may require a permit as this progresses. All costs associated with this project will be assessed to the landowners, utilities, and road authorities in accordance with the Drainage Act. Any questions? Let me know.
Sounds very simple.
They always are.
Thanks, Ryan. So recommendations moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councilor Elliott. The Council Town of Minto hereby receives report PW 2025-016 to Municipal Drain 19 improvement request prepared by the Drainage Superintendent for information purposes. Over the Council Town of Minto, appoint Street Associates Engineers or architects to represent the town's interest in this matter. Questions for Ryan? Go ahead, Councilor Elliott.
Could we get another 100 years out of the drain?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
It's no longer functioning.
That's it.
Other questions? Street Associates and Engineers and Architects, where are they?
They are out of London, Ontario. They come highly recommended from a couple of the neighboring new municipalities I've spoken to. Yeah, we decided to reach out to a different one as we have a lot of these projects on the books. So just trying to spread it around a little.
Okay, if there's no questions, I'm going to call a question. All in favor of Ryan's motion? That's carried. Thank you very much. We'll move along to the next one. It's Plan 2025-013 SPC 2024-03 Johnny Garth 340 Minto Road, Palmerston, and I'll ask our CVO, Mr. Terry Piper, to present.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. So just wanted to provide council with an update or for information on a project that has just recently received site plan control. So the subject property is located at 340 Minto Road, so within our Palmerston Industrial Park. Council may recall dealing with this property several times over the past few years. Originally, it was sold to a company called Shrimp Canada, who unfortunately their project wasn't successful. The town purchased it back, resold it to a company called McClellan Industries, who unfortunately came to the same end result. Town bought it back, and we have resold it to the current owner, Johnny Garth, who is proposing to develop the subject property. So the property is roughly 1 acre in size, and the owner is proposing to construct a single 6,360 square foot, 6 unit multi-tenant industrial building. The plan does indicate his intent to construct a 5,200 square foot addition onto the building at some point in the future to host another 5 rental units. The 6,360 square foot original or initial building complies with all of our building covenants. So if it doesn't go ahead, the addition doesn't go ahead down the road for some reason, he still met his obligations with the construction of this first building. The owner operates a millworking company, so building kitchen cabinetry, with one of their predominant suppliers or persons they deal with is Wellington County for their social housing needs for their cabinets. So the owner is proposing to relocate his business to within 4 of the 6 units within this building and then rent out the adjacent 2. Staff has drafted up an agreement which the owner has signed, indicates or contains our normal site plan control terms, with the exception that it's very clear in there that the site plan control agreement only pertains to the initial building, as there are some servicing needs that are unknown at this point for the addition. So it'll mean that the applicant or the owner will have to come back for an amendment to this agreement when they're looking at moving forward with the addition of the building. So staff is excited to see the development of this site. It's been a long time in the works. And it actually leaves us with only 4 parcels within the industrial park to be built on. 3 currently privately owned, and then 1 is still owned by the town. So I am more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
The recommendation is moved by Councillor Pottvit, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that Councillor Town Minto hereby receives report Plan 2025-013, SPC 2024-03, Johnny Gard, 340 Minto Road, Palmerston, prepared by the planning coordinator for information purposes. I'm sure, Terry, you helped her with that.
She helped. She helped me with it actually. She did more work to it than I did. That's
Right,
for sure.
so you helped her.
Yes, sorry.
Questions for Terry on that? 3, the third time's a good number, I hope.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm really excited. For some reason, this lot kept coming back to us, but a lot of people wanted these 1-acre lots. So it's kind of ironic that the past developments unfortunately fell through.
When does Johnny propose to get started?
I do not know the answer to that. I believe this year is when he
Okay.
wants to break ground.
All right, all in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you. And
Thank
I
you.
will pass the chair to Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And in turn, I've got our Community Services Director has pretty exciting news that he'd like to bring forward to you. I'm excited about it, so I'm sure everybody else will be.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Elliott. So as noted in the report, we've had a request from Minto Minor Hockey and the Southeast Surge organizations regarding Live Barn. So Live Barn specializes in autonomous recording and live streaming of events, mostly youth hockey games, and sells subscriptions to access this service. They have an agreement with the Ontario Minor Hockey Association, and the 2 closest locations nearby with Live Barn are in Drayton and Milverton. But I believe in Ontario alone, they are in over 100 municipalities. So we're talking hundreds of arenas in Canada and in the United States. So this term would be for 3 years, and that's typically how long an internet service contract is. And that's something that they'll be paying for on their own because they'll need their own dedicated internet to make this work. So they're not tying into ours, and it's at no cost to us, which is great. So as noted in the report, all user groups can choose to have their activities recorded or not. And this doesn't prevent groups from having their activities recorded in person. For example, when Whiteman TV comes and covers the skating carnivals, and there's times where 519 Sports will come do 81's games and then do highlights after the fact that you can watch on YouTube or other outlets. So back to you, Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty exciting when Blair was, I keep mentioning Blair, but when Blair was playing junior hockey in St. Mary's and Elmira and such, like, they had this type, I'm not sure what it was, live barn, but they did ever where you could get a subscription. So couldn't make it to the game, or you're not well enough to get to the hockey games, you can get a subscription and watch every game that they play, at least at the home rink. And very exciting. Great that we get this opportunity. And I'll read the motion. That the Council of Town of Minto hereby receives report CS 2025-003 live barn prepared by the Director of Community Services for information purposes. And further, the Council of Town of Minto pass the bylaw in open session authorizing the mayor and clerk to sign a 3-year agreement with Live Barn Incorporated. And I'll take questions.
Sorry, can we just state the mover and seconder on that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure, I will.
It's
Move-
Deputy Mayor Anderson and seconded by Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
So Matt, our staff have very little to do with this. If it's not functioning, we phone them, they come and fix it up for us. It's kind of maintenance free. It's like other computerized equipment.
There's very little responsibility on our part. I did reach out to Mapleton because they had it for the last ice season, and the only thing that you've got to be wary of is if someone doesn't want their activities recorded, there's basically a button you push and it stops recording. So that's about the extent of it from our involvement. Yeah, from what I've heard, it was a good experience in Mapleton last year. So kind of wanted to wait and see how it went there first, just because they're just down the road. And yeah, it was apparently quite a good experience.
They did have in Drayton, you watched the game, you were telling me it couldn't be at one of the rec games or something.
Yeah, so I play pickup hockey with one of the coaches from a team that my son plays, and he was away. We were over there, and I was like, oh, I'm not sure where he's at, but was talking to him the next day about the game, and he's like, oh yeah, I watched it on Live Barn. Yeah, I think he was at a tournament with his other son, and he's like, oh yeah, I saw the whole thing. So nothing, couldn't get anything past him. So. It is very cool, and yeah, I've got a subscription now just to test it out, take a look at what's happening in Drayton, Milverton. It's very cool.
Great. Any other questions? Comment? Okay, all in favor of that motion? I'll pass it back to the mayor.
Yeah, I'll just
Thank you.
pass it along to Councilor Dirksen. I don't understand treasurer of somebody that has so much clout in this municipality, why your presentation along with Michelle's is second last. Sorry, yes,
Yeah.
Now that
Yes,
we've cleared
and
the room, we
Yes,
will.
and apologies for that. I'll
No,
turn it
don't
over
come
to
back.
our treasurer, Gordon Duff, to take us, and Michelle Steele, to take us through the audited financial statements.
Right. So again, represents a months of work by both of us. And I am going to turn it over to Michelle because she has distilled all this complex information into a quick 29 slide presentation. So, Michelle, if you want to come on.
Great, yeah. So we have essentially summarized the financial statements into a PowerPoint presentation. So at the end of the presentation, if there are any additional questions to the statements, I can answer those, but I think most things will be covered. Hi, I'm Michelle Steele. I'm a principal at RLB. So I'm here to present your 2024 financial statements. Before I get started, I did want to thank Gordon. This is a lot of work getting us to this point, and we were able to turn it around faster this year. So I know that it was a lot of work for him and his team. So I wanted to thank him first. So just going over the agenda quickly. So I'm going to go over a quick overview of the audit. I will highlight the audit report. So, our actual independent auditor's report. I'll do a summary of the financial statements, so the individual statements, and then just a next step. So what's kind of required to wrap this up. Okay, so just an audit overview. So our finer materiality, so at the financial statement level, is $690,000. So that's the same as what we communicated to council in January. We had sent in a letter. So That's the the financial statement level. We do use a significantly reduced materiality at the individual expense and balance sheet line items. I do want to highlight that there's been no changes to the key audit risks that we did communicate with our pre-audit communication letter to council back in January. As well, I want to highlight that were no significant internal control deficiencies to communicate. So as part of your audit, we do review your internal controls. So I just wanted to highlight that there was no significant deficiencies found. If there was, we would communicate those in our management letter to council. So as part of the audit, we posted 6 adjusting entries. So from the trial balance we received, there were 6 adjusting entries. 2 of them related to tangible capital assets and 3 of them related to the reserves and reserve fund activity, just because the way they're reported in the statements is slightly different than as they're reported in the general ledger. And then we had 6 unadjusted differences. So these are any, we say immaterial, but anything really small, we just track as part of the audit. We don't want to do a lot of bookkeeping. So there were 6 entries that were unadjusted, not posted, but we do just track them because they could be significant as a whole. So the audit report. So the audit report is in the audited financial statements. It's 2 pages, but just a very high level overview. Our conclusion is that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position, results of operation, and cash flow of the town of Minto. And this is in accordance with the Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards. The report also goes on to discuss how our audit is conducted in accordance with the Canadian Generally Accepted Auditing Standards. So same report as last year, same opinion, but we do just want to highlight that. And then the remainder of the presentation are the financial statements. So the first statement is your statement of financial position. So this is the organization as at December 31st. So it would be similar to a balance sheet if you operate in the for-profit world. So it's essentially a snapshot of the organization as at December 31st. So it'll has your assets, your liabilities, and your accumulated surplus. And then we do have some graphs after I show you the statement that highlights your cash equivalents, taxes receivable, long-term debt. So can you go back one more? Perfect. So your statement of financial position. So you'll see there's a column for 2024 with comparatives to last year. I'll just kind of hit the main variances. So at the top of the page, you'll see cash. So your cash balance has decreased about $3.6 million as of year end. There is a cash flow statement I'll show you shortly, but essentially it's just where your cash is being held. So if you see the next line down, portfolio investments, your investments have increased 4.3 million. So that's the majority of your cash decrease. So where everything is held as of year end, there's some additional GICs purchased within the fiscal year. The next one, taxes receivable, has increased about $215,000. So we've kind of seen that trend across most of our municipalities. Taxes receivable have increased. It is primarily the current portion. So that's a trend that we have been seeing across the board. And then accounts receivable, it's broken down between various buckets there, but the main one is up about $200,000. So pretty consistent with the year before, but there was some additional shared services receivables as of year end. So just primarily timing. So you'll see at the top of the page, total assets, total financial assets of just over 25 million. Middle of the page are your liabilities. So most items are consistent with the year before. You'll see accounts payable and accrued liabilities has increased just over $1 million. It's primarily just timing on some of the tangible capital asset invoices. So invoices that relate to the fiscal year but weren't paid till after their year end. And then you'll see, yeah, long-term debt is down just over $1 million, and that's just the current year repayments. So total liabilities of 16.4 million. And then at the bottom of the page are your non-financial assets. The largest change there is your tangible capital assets. So that's increased about 1.7 million. You had capital asset additions of 5.6 million and net of your amortization or depreciation expense of 3.6 million. So all of that sums together of your accumulated surplus of 99.4 million, and we'll see that same balance on future statements. So just looking at the graphs that relate to that, the first one is your cash equivalents as a percentage of your annual cash outflows. So your cash outflows, hard to see with all the colors there, but essentially your cash outflow, so that's the expenses for the year, net of amortization, because that's not an actual cash outflow. Plus your current year debt repayments and then your tangible capital asset additions. So for fiscal 2024, your outflows are about $20 million. And then cash and cash equivalents are the green. And that essentially is your cash plus your portfolio investments. So you'll see it kind of varies year to year. Sometimes your cash and cash equivalents are above. For the last 2 years, they've been slightly below your cash outflows for the year. And then the green is the town of Minto, so that's your trend. And then the blue is the average of our other municipal clients. So it just gives you kind of a high level review on how the cash equivalents balance has changed over the last 5 years. And then the next chart is your taxes receivable. So this takes your taxes receivable as a percentage of your total taxes levied. So that's how we essentially make all our municipalities comparable. So you'll see green again is the town of Minto. Your taxes receivable as a percentage of total taxes levied is 4.1%. The blue is our average, the average of our other municipal clients. And you'll see for fiscal 2024, it's 9.4%. So yes, your taxes receivable have increased, but again, everybody's seeing that same trend. And then just on the side there, there's a chart from the MMAH that looks at their kind of level of risk. And you'll see anything under 10% is considered low. So we do like to point that out as well. The next graph is your long-term debt. So this graph just basically shows your long-term debt as a percentage of your total tax revenue, again, just so we can make everybody comparable. Green is the town of Minto and blue is the average of our other municipalities. And again, it's hard to make them comparable because again, it's based on, your tangible capital asset, past needs and future needs as well. And then the next 3 graphs are your tangible capital assets. So the first one shows your capital asset additions as a percentage of total tax revenue. Again, green is the town of Minto, blue is the average of our other municipal clients. You'll see again that the green line changes year to year based on your tangible capital asset activity. The current year, 2024, was fairly comparable to last year. There was, again, significant activity in fiscal 2022. The next tangible capital asset graph shows your capital additions, which is the blue, versus your capital asset additions, the budget, which is the green, and then the yellow is your amortization expense. Really, you want to see the blue line for each year above the yellow. Essentially, what you're reinvesting in your capital assets is in excess of the amortization expense because amortization is based on historical costs. And again, the green will vary year to year because sometimes projects are carried forward to the next year. So the same project could be in 2 years, but it's just a nice overview on what you budgeted for the year, what your actuals were versus the amortization expense. And then the last tangible capital asset schedule is how your capital asset additions were funded. So purple is grants, yellow is other. So the current year was essentially you had some proceeds. So you had sold some tangible capital assets in excess of what they were recorded on the books. I think there was a land was the largest one there. And then I'm going to say the turquoise and the green are what you've spent out of reserves and reserve funds. So again, for the last 5 years, it just gives you a high level summary on how you funded your tangible capital assets. So the next statement in your statement of operations reports the actual activity for the fiscal year. So we can go to that one. So this one, you'll see there's 3 columns. So we have your budget. This is your accrual-based budget. So you guys budget on the cash basis. This is the conversion to the accrual base. There is a note in the statements that shows you that what walks through the difference. And then your actuals for fiscal 2024 with comparatives to last year. So again, I'll just go over high-level changes between last year and this year. You'll see at the top of the page, revenues. Total revenue for 2024 is 19.67 million. So that's up about 3% from last year overall. It's pretty consistent with your budget as well. Kind of the main variances there. Tax revenue is increased over last year and is actually above over budget. There was some additional tax write-offs in fiscal 2023 that aren't there this year. So they're kind of one-offs with fiscal 2023. User fees are up slightly, about 3%. Grants are up about, down slightly 4% from last year. The only other larger variance, you'll see other income budget versus actual. So budget for other income was 836,000 this year versus actuals of 1.37 million. That's investment income for your reserves and reserve funds isn't budgeted because it gets put into the fund. But we do report that in revenue. So that's the variance there between those 2 columns. And then the other one, you'll see your obligatory reserve funds. So that revenue is down slightly from last year, but again, that will vary based on your projects in the year. So when you spend your development charges or your gas tax, that's going to vary year to year. So that number tends to vary. And in the middle of the page are your expenses. So overall expenses are up about 7% from last year. And the main variance you're going to see is in protection services. So in protection services, the expenses are up about $580,000 from last year. That's primarily the shared service agreement with Mapleton and Wellington North. There was additional salaries this year for the additional staff, and then there was some additional material costs there as well. But wages were the largest change over last year. So we take your total revenue over your total expenses. That gives you your annual surplus of the $2.9 million. And that gets added to your accumulated surplus beginning of the year, which is last year's closing. And then that's accumulated surplus ending of the year that we saw on the previous statement of financial position. So there's just a few graphs with this one. So the first one here is just a pie chart that essentially breaks out your expenditures by department. So again, you'll see the largest ones are environmental and transportation. And then the next slide will show your expenditures by department, but just shows the actual percentages as well. So those are just, again, just a high level summary. And then the next statement is your statement of changes in net financial assets. So this statement essentially reconciles your annual surplus that we just saw on your statement of operations to the change in the net financial assets. So there's not a lot of activity here. Again, you'll see we have your annual surplus. Again, we have your budget, actuals, and then comparatives to last year. So we take your annual surplus from the previous page. It deducts your acquisition of tangible capital assets. It adds back the amortization. And then you'll see this year there was a gain on disposal, and there was proceeds of $462,000 received. Kind of walks through all of that activity, and then you have an increase in net financial assets of just under 1.3 million. Gets added to balance beginning of the year, and then your net financial assets had 8.99 million, and that was back on the statement of financial position. So almost the last statement. So the statement of cash flow, essentially just a very high level review on how the cash balance changes in the year. So you see, again, we take your annual surplus from your statement of operation. Amortization gets added back because that's not an actual cash outflow. And then it walks through the changes in your non-cash working capital items. So how accounts receivable, how accounts payable changed in the year, and how that reflects with the actual cash balance. The main components here are you had a surplus for the year, especially when you add back your amortization expense. You had acquisitions of tangible capital assets, so a cash outflow of 5.6 million. And then you'll see the portfolio investments, that credit balance of the 4.3 million. So that's decreasing your cash balance. Kind of all of that combined, cash decreased about $3.6 million. That gets added to cash beginning of the year, and then your cash ending of the year reconciles to that balance. So the last one is your schedule of accumulated surplus. So this is essentially just a summary of your accumulated surplus and your reserves and reserve fund balance. So again, you'll see at the bottom accumulated surplus, the 99 million we saw on the previous schedule. So this is comprised of your invested in tangible capital asset surplus. So that's your tangible capital asset balance less long-term debt. And then your general fund. So that would just be the current balance for the organization. And then your reserves. So your reserve balance overall are pretty consistent with the year before. And then your reserve funds sum up to 12.5 million. So they're up about 2 million from last year. And it's primarily in your economic development has increased and the water services capital. And then the last is your deferred revenue. So deferred revenue, we have in a note. So your obligatory reserve fund, so development charges, gas tax, anything externally restricted are recorded in your deferred revenue. So those are included in a note to the statements. And here shows that. So we have the opening, contributions received, the investment income, and then less the revenue recognized. So the total for the revenue recognized is what you saw on the statement of operation. So overall, your deferred revenue or obligatory reserve funds are down about $280,000, and it's primarily in your OCIF funding. So essentially, you'll see that you spent more. So the revenue recognized this year is in excess of what was received because there was an opening balance. That would be the largest change. Everything else is pretty consistent, opening to closing. And then our last graph shows your reserves and reserve funds as a percentage of your total tax revenue. Again, just making everything apples to compare. Green is the town of Minto, and blue is the average of our other municipal clients. And then next step, so after this, if council chooses to, they would approve the audited statements. We would need a representation letter signed by Gordon. And then there's the FIR. So we've prepared the financial information return, and we're hoping to get that to Gordon later this week for his review. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Michelle. I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Zimmerman and seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report finance 2025-009 the 2024 audited financial statements prepared by the treasurer for information purposes. And further, that the Council of the Town of Minto approves the 2024 audited financial statements as presented. Any questions? Mayor Turton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Page 20. Statement of cash flows, 2023, accounts receivables, Canada and province considerably lower in 24 than 23.
Yeah, so the statement of cash flow shows us the change in the year. So the 2023 column is going to show you the change between 2023 and 2022. And then the provincial one would vary. Those are usually grants. Gordon might know off the top of your head what grant specifically that was.
Yes, Mayor Turton. Yeah, the grants, I think it's shown in those reports, and that, especially like at our last council meeting, we did the tangible capital assets, which is basically our asset management plan. So if Minto gets grants, our spending goes way up, or we borrowed money. That's we borrowed in 21, spent in 22 for the clarifier, top line, and all that. In the cash flow statement, so it's like you're financing your receivables just like a business, and that's what we are. Like we're having higher tax receivable, higher water bills, and just general receivables. So that decreases your cash. Whereas in, I guess, 22 to 23, we converted a lot of our receivables to cash. And that also accounts for the variances in your payables, your cash balances, and all that. As Michelle said, so much of it is timing.
Thank you. Clear as mud.
Yeah.
Councillor Elliott?
So you say if we don't get grants, our spending doesn't go up, so we don't do a project if we don't get a grant. Is that what you're saying? Or do we
So
go ahead?
many of the things, yes, that's true, because as we went over our taxes and reserves and that, also the kind of the looming 26 project or 27, I
Yes.
don't know, of downtown Palmerston, you can see how that's coming. So we've been kind of building reserves, paying down debt. I fully expected like a year ago, we'd be borrowing in a few months. And I'm pretty sure we're not. We're going to borrow in the spring of 26 because so much of the downtown Palmerston is design, consultation, approvals, all that. So probably you're going to see like the 25 statements, very similar. If we don't borrow, we pay down about 1.2 million in principal roughly every year. But we're going to have to borrow, and that's a decision we're going to have to make, is how much do we use up some of our reserves? We've got 2 wells in downtown Palmerston, plus a lot of other projects. So it looks really good this year, and I'm thinking 25 is not going to look too bad either. But then we have to pay the piper in 26, 27, you know, once we start spending. Again, we're still waiting on a couple of grant decisions, but
It's good you know people, Gord.
yeah, I wish we knew more people. Yeah.
Are there any other questions? I had one on page 14. You highlighted that the protection services was increased and a bit over budget, but is there not an amount then that comes back from Mapleton and from Wellington North, and where does that show up in revenues? That'd be other income, okay.
Yeah.
Super.
Oh, no, you're totally correct on that.
Yeah, okay, I didn't see it in the note, and so I wasn't sure where that would end up, but that's why that's why that is higher.
Exactly.
All right, I have read the question. I mean, I've read the recommendation. I think we're out of questions. I'm gonna call a question. All in favor? Thank you, that carries.
Thank you.
Our apologies for holding you late. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll turn the chair back to Mayor Turton.
Thank you very much, Michelle. So we can keep Gord on. He's doing a pretty good job, is what you're saying? Okay, thanks. Okay, so we're moving to CL 2025-009, alternate voting methods for 2026 municipal election. I'll ask our clerk, Annalee McRoth, to present this report.
Thank you very much, Mayor Turton. So last report of this meeting. We'll try not to be too long. Just wanted to let you know that this report is to outline the proposed voting method for the 2026 municipal election. I will be recommending a vote by mail with tabulator use, as previously used in 2022, as I feel these methods align with the Municipal Election Act and uphold election integrity and voter access. A little bit of background: we have successfully used vote by mail since 2003. 2022 was the first time that we added tabulators to increase efficiency and reliability. And Minto has historically had higher voter turnout than the provincial averages, except for 2022, which we were slightly lower, largely due to the acclamation of all council positions. In comparison with Wellington County, Minto's turnout was in the mid-range compared to neighboring municipalities, who many of them also had acclamations, with acclamations being up quite considerably in 2022. So why continue with the vote by mail and tabulators? I feel that the vote by mail has many benefits. It maintains voter secrecy, confidentiality, and accessibility. It's helpful for those that maybe are out of town or have transportation barriers. It's comparable, I think, in principle to voting in person with the secrecy folders and the voter declaration. And I think it's been a proven familiar system to our residents. The tabulator benefit is definitely added some efficiency and accuracy for counting. It is open to scrutiny for candidates and scrutineers, as they may observe. It also allows for auditing and recounting physical ballots. So I know that maybe there has been some challenges that people are thinking with Canada Post delays or strikes that we have recently been seeing, but we can mitigate those with designated ballot drop-off locations and timelines. I did look at maybe internet voting, but you still rely on Canada Post to issue the voter kits, no matter which way you go. There's still going to be something going out in the mail to the residents in order to do their voting. And I think there's less familiarity among the residents compared to the vote by mail, which we have been using for quite some time. And the cost will be covered through the annual news. That's what I have at this time.
Councilor, go ahead.
This may be this dumb question, but a couple of years away. So what again if we have a mail strike? How do we deal with that? How would you
right
election?
Thank you. So through any voting method that we would be using, you would still need to get those cards or the voting system out to your residents, even if it was online or whatever. You would still need to have something. We can flip pretty fast and do pickup, and we can do polls. Like, we can do whatever we need to do to make sure the election works to the best that we can.
So instead of mailing their vote, then they would have the opportunity to bring them to a poll.
Absolutely. And we do offer that a bit. We do always do set up areas at the arenas for drop off, and our office is always a drop off point as well.
Thanks.
Good question. Everybody's happy with the direction that we're going. I mean, some of those percentages from the town of Minto where everybody is equal in reference to us versus other municipalities are pretty high. So the recommendation is moved by Councillor Potkovich, seconded by Councillor Dirksen. Council of Town of Minto hereby receives report CL 2025-009, alternate voting methods for the 2026 municipal election, prepared by the Director of Legislative Services, Clerk, for information purposes, and further that council authorize vote by mail method for casting ballots in the 2026 municipal election, and further that council authorizes the use of tabulators for counting ballots in the 2026 municipal election. Further that the mayor and the clerk be authorized to sign a bylaw to authorize a vote by mail method of casting ballots in the 2026 municipal election, and further that the mayor and the clerk be authorized to sign the bylaw to authorize the use of tabulators for counting ballots in the 2026 municipal election, and further that the clerk shall prepare procedures and rules for the vote by mail method of casting ballots in 2026 municipal election. Provide these procedures and rules to the public by posting them on the municipal website. Questions? All in favor of the motion? It's carried. Thank you very much, and we're at announcements. Councillor Dirksen, do you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Turton. I just want to make everyone aware of the Drew Community Barbecue, Pork Chop Barbecue. It's on Sunday evening, the 13th of July, which is the one coming up. I believe it's between 5 and 7 that they're serving. They have it down to a science, and it's a wonderful community event. You get tickets from any Drew Community Board member.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dirksen. Councillor Zimmerman, I'm sure you've got a page full.
Well, strangely enough, I do. So this weekend coming up in Minto is the big weekend in Clifford. So this is going to be the Clifford Carnival. The main street is being closed. We have so much going on, you won't believe it. We have Demerling's Garage is sponsoring the first ever car show. It's going to be kind of special in itself. We have some surprise visitors, supposedly Smokey and the Bandit truck and car coming, like the real deal, the real thing. Lots of other things, food, games. Of course, the highlight is going to be the dunk tank with our worship Mayor Turton sitting on the wet seat, and as well as MP John Nader, County Councillor David Anderson, and myself, and a few other fill-ins that are unsuspecting what's going to happen. I can't imagine that it's going to be a perfect day. It's supposed to be hot, thankfully. It's going to be freezing cold. So it starts off at 8 a.m. with a 5-kilometer run or walk, whatever you prefer. Carnival itself starts at 10 and goes until 2. So come on out. It's going to be great. Also in Palmerston, again, is the Minto Farmers Market from 9 to 12 at the museum. And there's going to be a breakfast there this weekend, apparently, part of it. I don't want to take all of the glory here. We've got paper sent around August 1st to 4th, and Palmerston, of course, is a really big deal. That's their homecoming. There's so much going on there, you can't possibly say it all tonight. So get on social media and look at all the information that's posted there. And then August 9th, since we're not going to be meeting before then, is Harrison Rising is hosting a street party. Leslie's annual car show is happening that day. All kinds of things. There's sales from the merchants, food, balloons, face painting, makers markets, bouncy castles, and music. And if that isn't enough, you can go dancing at night in the back Legion parking lot. Got a DJ playing Age of Majority event, just in case it's really hot, and have yourself a great time. And that's it.
Deputy Mayor Anderson, go ahead.
Well, there's not much to say after all that, is there? I have nothing.
Well, thank you very much. Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
I think you mentioned to me that, the mayor was talking to me about, possibility of us having, a float in the John Deere event. What's
The date is July 25th.
July 25th is a parade.
Right, so we'll get more instruction on that. That's only a couple weeks away. So we'll let everybody know where that's happening.
We could probably get that. I was thinking of the John Deere tractor or something to pull the float that we got, but we usually pull
Train is a John Deere tractor.
it. It could be.
Maybe,
we can
what
look
is
up
the guest, brand for this year? 'Cause it doesn't have to be John Deere. Like last year was Ford. I don't know what it is this year. I was looking for that. I couldn't find it.
So,
What brand of the Dirksons have?
We have them all.
so to take one opportunity to take one of his vintage.
Oh, if it's a Massey, he'd be there with the big one, yeah.
Okay,
But I don't know if that's the guest
I'll talk to
brand.
Mr. Craig.
Yeah, we need to find.
They would be delighted to have the councilman parade. I don't think we've done it before.
I was in it last year.
We did?
I was in it last year.
Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry.
Drove a little
Yes,
Ford
you were.
tractor.
Oh, I apologize.
Ran into my house.
I did.
Yeah, they have an interesting, freight route. So what about the other one, Ron?
The 150th, we're hoping that we can put our little train float in it and have past councilors and past mayors attend along with us. So
Need a big float.
a couple of committed that they come forward.
So Ron, what we need to do, sorry.
Sure, you can do it. That's good.
I'm wondering if we can have some help from, who's going to be able to come up with all the names?
Yeah, you know them all personally, don't you?
I'll bet Ron Elliott and I could sit down and get them all. Yeah.
We could look in the picture.
Look at the pictures of that.
Somewhat.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there'll be, I think there's
David,
pictures
yeah.
somewhere, Quinn, is it?
And you, yeah. We can
And
do
You
it.
can,
And I think
We
we
can
got,
do it.
So how are we gonna do it? How do we round up the names? I mean, it's Minto, it's Clifford, it's Palmerston, it's,
yeah,
so anybody that's, so are you okay with that? Anybody that wants to get on it, that was a counselor in the town of Minto?
Sure. So we need a wagon now, though.
Okay.
yeah, you can have a lot of people.
So do you think, your husband might wanna try another vehicle that day?
Drive
I'm
both
not
at
sure.
the same time.
You want me to drive? I'll talk.
Sure, you talk to him.
Okay,
so we can work towards that and leave it with me and I'll try and get a hold of contact somebody that would know how to get it done.
so
We should have some archives somewhere.
that's August 2nd, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
August 2nd, yes, 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Doesn't say where we meet, but, so we could maybe talk with Mr. Paul Judge to help us with a few flowers decorations. Great. So hopefully everybody can make yourself available on the 11 a.m. on the 2nd, on Saturday.
That should be a lot of fun.
So the other thing about that, sorry, is Palmerston Homecoming. You need to sign up. If you can buy the complete package for the weekend, and I have no idea what the price is, or you can buy, didn't even say for sure, but please get out there and get your tickets, no matter how you do it.
And where do you do that? On Eventbrite or?
So it's on, visit our website to purchase. Tickets required. It's right on the bottom of your paper. So Palmerston Homecoming at gmail.com. Gene, it's right there on that piece of paper in front of you.
Right here.
Yep. Okay, so the
you.
information is all there. I know there
Okay.
are
Wow.
volunteers are working diligently to put something together and make it a great weekend. So all they need is participation. I understand that there's lots of people coming home. And so it should be fun. Anything else? Councillor Elliott, Councillor Potnovitz,
No, I think there's enough investment. I can't think of any more.
Okay. So all tracks lead home is what that's all about. And so the other thing is the Upper Canada two-cylinder club. And if we're putting a parade in both, that's terrific. Other than that, resolution moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that the committee of the whole convenes into regular council. All in favor of the motion? It's carried. Notices of motion. Resolution moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Pockett, that the council town of Minto ratifies the motions made in committee of the whole. All in favor of that motion? It's carried. Thank you. Bylaws. Moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that bylaws 2025-0033 through 2025-037 be read a first, second, and third time, passed on to the council and sealed the corporation. All in favor of the motion? It's carried. Affirmatory. Moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Pockets, that bylaw 2025-038, confirm action of the council corporation town of Minto respecting a meeting held July 8th, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time, and passed in open council and sealed the corporation. All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Adjournment, moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson. Council town of Minto adjourn. Meeting, call the mayor. Again, call the mayor. All in favor of that motion? It's carried. Thank you very much for a long meeting, but we certainly got a lot of calm. Thank you.